Hey guys, Foxdrop here with a video on some junglers who are really simple to play yet who still yield more than decent results. These are your type of champions who are very easy to play mechanically and don't require any kind of specific playstyle that needs specific knowledge in order to execute. They'll also tend to be pretty tanky as that eliminates a lot of your margin for error when playing them. You should be able to pick up these champions with relative ease and be successful with them as you go. This is a video being made in partnership with Pro Guides, who by the way have released quite a nifty new service called Genius. What they've done is they've banded together a bunch of high elo players to be at your disposal. So if you ever have a question you want to ask a high elo player, you can do that 24 hours a day. Not bad, eh? Our first simple yet effective champion for this list is going to be Amumu. He doesn't get seen much in the higher leagues of solo queue, but the fact remains that the sad mummy is by all means a solid champion regardless of elo for solo queue. He not only cries everywhere, which is especially effective against more sentimental opponents, but he takes advantage of the lack of solo queue communication, specifically by being able to punish teams who group up or are not suspecting him, which is every solo queue team ever, especially in lower elo. You can also play him as more of a damage orientated pick, which I like to call the grenade Amumu, as he flies in and blows everything up, oftentimes including himself, seeing as how squishy he'll be with a build like that. But even as a full tank, he provides more than enough to his team. He has 3 abilities that don't require any precision whatsoever, things that don't even need to be placed and just go off around him, and his one tricky ability, his skill shot Q, is pretty fast, pretty wide, and also pretty easy to stick. Reminds me of something that I shouldn't mention for this family show. Next on this list is Rek'Sai. As far as bruisers go, Rek'Sai is probably the simplest one to play. Really, the only tricky thing about her is being able to place your tunnels in a way that actually land behind your opponent and not muck it up somehow. Maintaining a good tunnel network so you can ult to various places on the map and respond to plays being made is also important, but it's not like it's hard, it's just something you gotta remember to do when playing her. It's a bit like loading the dishwasher. It's not a chore that takes any particular element of skill, it's just something you gotta remember to do, or your stepmom will rage at you and you'll go to bed with no supper. Something like that at least. The way she's able to apply pressure in the early game makes her a pretty formidable foe and also gives her fairly good relevancy in the current meta. She can be built as either full tank or a more of a bruiser kind of deal, getting hybrid tank items such as Black Cleaver and Titanic Hydra. She doesn't have many people to fear in straight up 1v1s either, so you won't have to be too careful with how you move around the jungle. All of these things contribute to why Rek'Sai is known as the Queen of the Desert. If she was the mother of Honey Boo Boo, however, she'd be the Queen of the Desert. Swinging in now, we have Volibear. If you've ever watched a jungle video from Fire, then firstly, I'm sorry, and secondly, you'd probably be well aware that Volibear is a good jungler for solo queue. Statistically, he's actually really good, in fact, and honestly, there is a lot of merit to this. Volibear is someone who is borderline unkillable after a certain point and really has no glaring weaknesses for you to mess up on. If you're mechanically inept, which is fine by the way, don't be ashamed, it'll be like a blind porn addict being ashamed of watching the women's tennis, then there's absolutely no worries for you entering the rift on the Stormy Bear. Literally the hardest thing to do on Volibear is to not press your bite button on an enemy while they're too high on health, and to not use your rolling thunder while the enemy is too far away from you so you run out of steam and can't flip people like burgers. Basically, don't blow everything too early and you should be fine. Also good advice for people who don't get a call back in the morning and wonder why. Someone as tanky as Volibear can't really make positional errors, as not only is it pretty impossible for him to die, but the enemy team will often not even try to take him down when they realise the futility of their efforts. It's also hard to play the team fights wrong, because as long as you're in the fight, you'll either be soaking damage, killing enemy squishies, or distracting and peeling the enemy frontline, which is all fine for you to do. Really, there isn't a way for you to mess that up unless you end up running away. And if you're the type to run away from a fight when you're playing bloody Volibear, well, then you're probably the same type of person who leaves breadcrumbs in the butter and who doesn't replace the toilet paper when they're done with it. In which case, you need to go and sort your damn life out. Just a reminder that if you're enjoying this video, feel free to drop a resplendent thumbs up, and if you have any suggestions for future videos or feedback or whatever it may be, the comment section exists for a reason, so don't hesitate. Thanks for watching so far, and without further ado, let's bring out our penultimate champion, Gragas. If you needed any more proof that I take no shame in admitting that I play easy champions, then this is it. Gragas is my most played jungler this season, and as of making this video, I'm sitting at about 75% win ratio with him on Diamond 1. For me, I really enjoy Gragas, and he's probably slightly more mechanically intensive than the others on this list, but he's still really not that hard to play. That's the reason why I play him, because then I don't have to worry about my mechanics failing me or mispositioning, because these are all non-factors for the fat man. It allows me to focus more on my game and actually being good at the jungle rather than being good at my champion. E/R combos and the general positioning of your ultimate are the only things you may need to work on a little when you're playing Gragas, but honestly, even if you can't do these things very well, you can still be a good tubby jungler. The thing with his ultimate is that whereas it has high potential to be very good, it really doesn't have much potential for being bad. Unless you miss everyone completely, then you'll still be either disengaging, splitting up enemies, or dragging people into your team so you can then focus them down. I suppose it could be bad if you were to ult the enemy Amumu and Galio into your team, but as long as you avoid doing that, you really should be fine. One of the reasons I like Gragas so much is because he actually has decent offensive upsides too, despite being as tanky as he is. Not that this is something too unique to the big belly, it pretty much sums up any tank meta in League, but it makes it more interesting to play for me at least. And of course, it's ridiculously satisfying to bonk people over the head with your W. The last champion for this list is going to be Ramus. If you're looking for a no-brain gank heavy champion, then look no further than the Armadillo. If mindless ganking had a face, it would be this guy, which is a little ironic because Ramus doesn't actually have a face. He's a bit like that wizard geezer from Final Fantasy. It's not just Final Fantasy though, faceless people also exist in the Warcraft lore, and the new Hearthstone expansion brought a lot of faceless cards into play. I personally like to play Hearthstone in French because it helps me learn the language, and also the voice acting is insane, and in French, faceless is translated to sans visage, which means without face. And that's kind of funny because sans visage could be shortened to S visage, which could also mean spirit visage in League. And that's cool because it's by far the best item for tanks if they're looking for some MR. Except, ironically, for the champion we're talking about right now, who instead would probably prefer Banshees to prevent people impeding his initiations. Yep, the only real thing you gotta worry about on Ramus is people stopping you from getting to them. Sounds a bit stupid, but once you're on them, there really isn't anything they'll be able to do to survive, provided you haven't gone in 1v5. You can try be a bit sneaky by coming in through the fog of war, or just say screw it to the tactics and just run at them. One of the most oppressing things about Ramus is how hard it is to get away from him unless you can jump over a wall or have someone come and save you. Make sure you charge your power ball before you go and gank with him though, so you'll be tearing out the fog of war at high speeds rather than rolling out while you're ramping up. But that's all we got for this list, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, feel free to give me a thumbs up down below. You can also subscribe to me for more educational League content with a bit of entertaining stuff on the side as well. You can find me on Facebook, on Twitter, and catch me streaming over at twitch.tv/Foxdrop. All those links are in the description. And once again, thank you to Pro Guys for helping me with the editing for this video. But most importantly, guys, have a great day. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in my next video.